California, Ryan Garcia.
Here is the undefeated Rolando Romero.
Statement, he campaigned most of his career at 135. Tonight, he's at 140, so he's gotten bigger.
It was a night where boxing met Broadway spectacle. Under the pulsing neon glare of Times Square, thousands of fans poured into the iconic arena, nestled in the heart of Manhattan. Traffic slowed. Cell phones were out. The entire city buzzed, not just with typical Friday night energy, but with the gravity of what was about to unfold. Ryan Garcia, once the sport's most unpredictable prodigy, was finally making his return to the ring after a chaotic year-long suspension that had cast serious doubts over his career. Across from him stood Romero, brash, unfiltered, and determined to turn Garcia's comeback into a public reckoning. The WBA regular welterweight title was on the line, but the stakes were far more personal than any belt. For Garcia, it was about redemption, not just in the eyes of the boxing community, but in the mirror. For Romero, it was about proving he was more than talk, more than flash. A real champion who could shut down the hype once and for all. The days leading up to the fight were pure theater. From tense face-offs to social media spats, both fighters kept the spotlight firmly on them. The final press conference was nothing short of combustible. Garcia, dressed sharply in a custom Navy suit, smiled calmly as reporters pressed him about his mental health, PED accusations, and whether he was truly ready after such a controversial absence. His answers were polished, but his eyes burned with intent. "I'm not just back," he said. "I'm better than ever. And Raleigh? He's just another chapter in my comeback story." Romero, on the other hand, came with his usual energy. Wild, provocative, and utterly unpredictable. Clad in sunglasses and a flashy designer jacket, he called Garcia soft, mocked his suspension, and promised to knock him out before the 6th round. His tone wasn't just cocky, it was personal. When the two came face to face for the final stare-down, the tension was so thick you could practically hear the cameras clicking over the sound of their breathing. Security stood close, just in case. The moment the bell rang, the entire arena seemed to hold its breath. Both fighters emerged from their corners with palpable tension. Garcia, always known for his quicksilver speed and sniper-like accuracy, opened with his trademark jab, lightning-fast flicks that tested Romero's timing. Raleigh, in contrast, came out compact, twitchy, and looking to land something explosive early. He circled carefully, throwing feints and waiting for Garcia to overcommit. Midway through the round, Romero launched a looping overhand right that just barely grazed Garcia's temple, an early reminder that this wouldn't be a one-sided dance. But Garcia didn't flinch. Instead, he slipped the next shot and tagged Romero with a sharp counter-left hook that earned a roar from the crowd. Neither fighter took any major risks, but both established presence. Romero with power, Garcia with control. As the bell ended the first, it was clear. This wasn't going to be a warm-up, it was going to be war. Garcia came out with renewed energy, his footwork smoother, his jabs snapping sharper than in the opener. He began to assert control of the center of the ring, cutting angles with clinical precision. A beautifully timed double jab straight right combo caught Romero flush on the chin. Not enough to do damage, but enough to send a message. Garcia wasn't here to shake off rust. He was here to win. But Romero, known for his unorthodox timing and explosive bursts, wasn't going to be bullied into a corner. He returned fire with aggressive hooks, backing Garcia up momentarily. At one point, he trapped Garcia along the ropes and unloaded a flurry of body shots that forced the former interim champ to pivot out with urgency. Still, Garcia's timing continued to improve. He landed a crisp left to the body that visibly slowed Romero's advance and followed it with a right uppercut that brought the crowd to its feet. The round closed with Garcia landing a 5-punch combination that left Romero blinking, absorbing, but standing. Garcia's confidence grew. The rhythm was his. The ring began to feel like home again. As the bell for round 3 echoed through Times Square's arena, something shifted in Romero. His movement became sharper, more direct, like a predator sensing blood in the water. Midway through the round, Garcia got a little too comfortable, staying in the pocket half a second longer than he should have. And that's when it happened. Romero uncorked a vicious overhand right that thundered across Garcia's cheekbone. The punch wasn't just clean, it was brutal. Garcia's knees buckled for a flash, his body momentarily stalling as if his internal system had to reboot. The crowd exploded, gasps, screams, phones flying up in the air. For a brief moment, the confident King Rai looked human, vulnerable. Romero surged forward, sensing the shift. He trapped Garcia near the ropes and unleashed a barrage. Uppercuts, looping hooks, body shots. But Garcia, even while dazed, showed championship instincts. He clinched, he slipped, he survived. The bell rang with Romero stalking and Garcia exhaling. The tide had turned, but only slightly. The war was far from over. Garcia returned to his corner with swelling under his eye but fire in his gaze. His team calmed him, reset his footwork strategy, and sent him back out focused. Round 4 became a chess match under fire. Romero, encouraged by the previous round, tried to bulldoze his way forward, but Garcia had made the adjustment. He started circling off the back foot, keeping Romero turning, pivoting with surgical grace. His jab returned, stiff, snapping, and disruptive. Each time Romero lunged, Garcia punished him with counters. A left hook to the ribs, a right straight up the middle. It was less flashy, more calculated. Garcia wasn't looking to steal the round with a knockout. He was looking to dismantle Romero's momentum brick by brick. By the end of the round, Romero's forward pressure had slowed. His breathing deepened. Garcia had weathered the storm and was beginning to dictate the rhythm once more. If round 4 was tactical, round 5 was total chaos. Romero, realizing the fight was slipping back into Garcia's hands, went for broke. He came out swinging with wild overhands and clubbing body shots. And Garcia didn't back away. Instead, he stood in the pocket and fired back with blistering combinations that made the crowd rise to their feet. For the first time in the fight, both men were fully trading, fists flying, sweat spraying, the sound of leather on flesh echoing like drums in a coliseum. Romero landed a looping left that twisted Garcia's head around. Garcia responded with a 3-punch combo capped by a liver shot that made Romero wince. The round ended with both fighters glaring, chest to chest, refusing to give ground. There was no clear winner this time, only the growing tension that something explosive was coming. As the fight entered its middle stages, the pace should have slowed. But Garcia was just getting warmed up. Round 6 began with Garcia picking Romero apart with sharp, disciplined offense. His footwork kept him just out of range. His punches, especially his lead left hook, started finding a home with surgical precision. What once looked like back-and-forth brawling was now a technical exhibition. Garcia was landing at will, slipping punches like a matador, and resetting before Romero could react. Garcia noticed. He began to go to the body more often, ripping hooks under the elbows, doubling up with jabs, and even sneaking in uppercuts that snapped Romero's head back. One right cross landed so clean, sweat flew off Romero's face like a splash from a water balloon. By the final 10 seconds of the round, Romero was backing up, forced to retreat for the first time all night. Garcia wasn't just surviving anymore. He was taking over. By the 7th round, the crowd could feel it. The momentum was no longer shifting. It had shifted. Garcia wasn't just fighting to win anymore. He was fighting to make a statement. He came out of his corner with a chilling calm, the kind that said he knew exactly what he was about to do. And Romero? He was visibly fading. His legs were slower, his guard wasn't snapping back into place, and his breathing, deep and labored, told a story his eyes tried to deny. Garcia began cutting angles with precision, pivoting on a dime, making Romero swing at air. Then came the combinations. Not wild flurries, but calculated bursts of speed and power. A left hook to the liver, a right to the chin, then a jab upstairs to keep Romero guessing. The combinations weren't just scoring points, they were draining Romero's spirit. At one point, Garcia trapped Romero near the neutral corner and unloaded a 6-punch combo that had the crowd roaring. Romero tried to fight back, but his punches lacked snap. His power, once dangerous, was now dulled by fatigue and frustration. The round ended with Garcia walking back to his corner, looking fresh, and Romero stumbling like a man unsure of what just hit him. Garcia was now operating like a sniper, deadly accurate, totally composed. His jab, which had been sharp all night, was now a tool of control. He used it to measure distance, disrupt rhythm, and open windows for heavier shots. Midway through the round, Garcia found that window. As Romero dipped to his right, Garcia timed a perfect uppercut, clean, crisp, and straight through the guard. It snapped Romero's head back so violently that the crowd let out a collective gasp. It was the kind of punch that made highlight reels and silenced even the loudest hecklers. Romero staggered, but to his credit, he stayed on his feet. Still, his posture gave him away. He was surviving, not competing. Garcia knew it, and so did the fans. Every step Romero took was slower, every breath deeper. Every second, Garcia grew stronger while Romero looked like a man being walked to the gallows. The final seconds of the round saw Garcia peppering Romero with body shots. Nothing too flashy, just enough to let him know, "I'm still here, and I'm not done." The ninth round felt less like a fight and more like a formality. Romero was exhausted, mentally and physically. His corner had wiped him down, slapped his cheeks, shouted instructions, but it was like trying to jumpstart a dying engine. Garcia moved with the confidence of a fighter who had completely figured out his opponent. He began showboating slightly. Shoulder rolls, subtle feints, hands briefly lowered, testing how much he could get away with. And still, Romero had no answer. Midway through the round, Garcia landed a three-punch sequence that nearly dropped Romero. Jab, left hook to the body, right uppercut upstairs. It wasn't just the power, it was the placement. Each shot landed exactly where it needed to, with surgical intent. Romero swung wildly a few times, trying to change the narrative. But Garcia stayed composed, ducked under, and popped back up with more precision counters. It was clear now, Romero needed a miracle. But miracles don't come in round 9 when you're bleeding, breathing heavy, and the man in front of you smells blood. This was it, the final round. Garcia stood tall in his corner, nodding as his coach gave him simple words. "Finish him." Romero? He sat slumped, his chest heaving, his legs heavy. He looked like a man trying to convince himself he still had one more war in him. But when the bell rang, his body said otherwise. Garcia closed the distance early. No more games, no more setups. He walked Romero down with ruthless efficiency. A jab snapped Romero's head. A left hook to the liver made him bend. Then Garcia stepped in, planted his feet, and delivered a devastating 1-2 combo. A liver shot that crumpled Romero slightly, followed by a laser-sharp right cross to the jaw. Romero collapsed, flat on his back, arms spread, eyes glassy. The referee didn't even need to rush the count. Everyone knew it was over. Garcia walked away without celebration, without flash, just a calm nod. He didn't come back to prove something. He came back to remind everyone who he is. The energy backstage was electric, yet solemn, like the calm after a thunderstorm. Moments after the final bell, a victorious Ryan Garcia stepped into the post-fight press conference with sweat still glistening on his face, but no sign of cockiness. He wasn't here to gloat, he was here to reflect. Garcia, dressed in a tailored suit, just moments after wrapping his fists in tape and sweat, leaned into the microphone with composure. His voice, though steady, carried the weight of the war he had just survived. "Raleigh's tougher than people think. He came to fight. He pushed me. This wasn't easy, but I needed this. This was about more than belts. It was about redemption." His words weren't rehearsed. They felt real, like a man who had returned from exile and reclaimed his crown not with arrogance, but with grace. He went on to thank his team, his fans, and his family. He acknowledged the pressure of returning after a suspension, the doubt, the critics who wrote him off. But he didn't call them out with bitterness. He simply said, "You can doubt me, just don't bet against me." Romero arrived next, head lowered, eyes slightly swollen, lip cut, but his spirit was far from broken. Sitting beside his trainer, he faced the press with humility and grit. "I got caught. No excuses. He was faster, sharper, but I'll be back. This ain't the end of Rolly Romero. He gave Garcia credit without hesitation, calling him a sniper and a guy who sees everything in there. But he also made one thing clear: he wasn't going away. I learned tonight. I know what I need to fix. And next time, I finish stronger. The press conference wrapped not with trash talk, but with mutual respect. A rare moment in boxing where two warriors who tried to take each other's heads off just hours earlier now acknowledged the humanity in one another. As the night faded and the lights of Times Square returned to their usual chaos, one thing was clear. May 2nd, 2025 would not be forgotten. The spectacle was more than just another title fight. It was a narrative of resilience, of a fighter exiled by controversy, coming back under the brightest lights in the world and proving, undeniably, that he was still elite. Garcia's performance wasn't just about skill, it was about mental toughness, about reclaiming identity, and about showing the world that time away doesn't mean time wasted. He reminded fans and critics alike why he's been considered one of boxing's brightest stars, even when the spotlight dimmed. For Romero, though bruised and beaten, the night offered clarity. He had tested himself against a top-tier opponent on a global stage. And though he fell short, he now knew what greatness looked like up close, and he had the heart to chase it again. As fans filed out of the venue and the city buzzed back into motion, those who were lucky enough to be there knew they'd witnessed more than a fight. They'd seen the reawakening of a king, the growth of a challenger, and the kind of dramatic arc that makes boxing not just a sport, but a saga. And somewhere in the neon glow of Times Square, under the giant LED screens flashing highlights of the final knockout, you could hear one lingering thought echoing in the minds of fight fans. Ryan Garcia is back. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Subscribe to Boxing is Here for the latest updates, fight breakdowns, and expert analysis. And turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, peace out.